The Quest 3S is the first VR headset from Meta that takes some old features from the Quest 2 as well as newer upgrades from the original Quest 3. But because of that, there are 6 important things that you should know before you buy one. So let's dive right into it. With the first and most important one being, of course, the price. Because the main selling point of the Quest 3S is that Meta is aggressively pricing it at $300, which is also exactly the same as they did with their hugely popular Quest 2. And for these $300, you will get the Quest 3S model that includes 128GB. But there is also the possibility to get double that storage at 256 for a total of $400, which could be worth the upgrade if you want a little bit of extra space when, for example, playing some big VR games. However, what a lot of people missed is that the original Quest 3 also got a big reduction at the same time, where it is now priced down to $500 in total. And this also includes the biggest storage option of 500GB, making this sometimes an even greater value for those who don't own a VR headset yet. But of course, it is impossible to deny that the Quest 3S has a great price tag for the hardware that it brings, and that positive sticker shock is also the goal of Meta in the first place. But to be capable of knowing if it's worth it, we should first talk about the second point, which is the hardware itself. Now, the Quest 3S sits in the middle when it comes to comparing the specs to the Quest 2 and Quest 3. Even though the name might sound and suggest that it is superior to the Quest 3, this is not actually the case in reality, but instead, it is a mix of both their previous headsets combined. For example, the 3S has the same chipset as the original Quest 3, which is known as the XR2 Generation 2 chip, which is an absolute insane processor that will lead into great performance during your games. But it also means that games will be able to render the same level of detail, number of objects and textures as the Quest 3 does. But its main focus is the outside color cameras, which are now arranged in 2 groups of 3, making it easy to distinguish from the other Quest headsets. But why this is so important is because these cameras give the user access to mixed reality experiences. So instead of the old grainy black and white output from the Quest 2, you can now play all the mixed reality games in full color when and wherever you want. But what you also might notice is that the outside of the headset now also rocks the same dual band head strap to make it much easier to adjust and to increase your comfort when you wear it for a long period of time, which in itself is already a huge upgrade from the one band strap of the original Quest 2. However, besides the headset, the controllers are just as important, with the 3S including 2 Touch Plus controllers, which have a much better tracking quality and response time when compared to the older Ring designs from before. But that also means, while all these features that we just mentioned are exactly the same between the Quest 3S and the original Quest 3, there are sadly also some downgrades that we have to discuss. And the first big one, right out of the gate, is when we look at the screen, because the 3S is using the lower quality single LCD panel of the Quest 2, instead of the higher quality dual LCD panel of Quest 3. Now, while we compare them to the standards for VR, the difference in pixels is not that big, but it is noticeable if you hold them next to each other. However, even more importantly is that the 3S is using the older Fresnel lenses instead of the newer Pancake ones. And this does make a huge difference, because the Pancake lenses would give you a bigger sweet spot for you to see the screen clearly, as well as bringing you a lot of less glare, which most people refer to as God rays. So once you have tried the upgraded lenses, it can be very hard to go back to. But changes like these of course had to be made for the lower cost that comes with it. Luckily, there are some solutions that can solve this problem partially, like getting yourself some official prescription lenses that can reduce the glare significantly while also making your screen look a lot more sharper if you were already wearing contacts or glasses in real life. A great example of these are the ones from a company named VRWave, where all you have to do is just pop them in and that's it. Now, of course, if you are already an original Quest 2 user, then you won't notice any difference when it comes to screen quality, since these specs are exactly the same as the Quest 3S. But one feature that definitely is gone and is often not talked about enough is that the 3S does now not have a headphone jack anymore, and instead it will rely completely on the built-in speakers itself. But having a headphone jack as an option to plug in earphones kind of feels like a standard feature, even more so if you have people around you that you don't want to bother while you play those Beat Saber tunes in VR. But maybe even more importantly than talking about the hardware is of course the games, because the best news regarding their entire VR gaming library is that all games that can be played on Quest 3 can also be played on the 3 3S. This goes from all the biggest games to even all the mixed reality apps that you can think of. So you finally don't have those problems anymore like a lot of Quest 2 users have, where the newer games are sadly not available. And Meta also announced that this will be the case for the entire life cycle of the Quest 3S, since both of them are using the same chipset. But because of this, that also means that the Quest 3S is now officially the replacement of the original Quest 2, since Meta announced that the 3S will take the spot of their previous entry headset and that they won't be selling the Quest 2 any longer. But surprisingly, the same actually goes for their expensive high-end headset known as the Quest Pro, which now was also officially announced to be discontinued, leaving the lineup with just the new Quest 3S and the now good old Quest 3. And the main reason for it is because of the Quest 2 now not being capable anymore to play the higher-end VR games. But from Meta's side, probably also to make sure that people jump over and upgrade their headset after a couple of years. While the Quest Pro, on the other hand, had all the great hardware, but came with a price that was much too high for most consumers. But with all that knowledge, we probably got towards the most important point, which is the hardware that comes in the box, since you don't want to be set up for surprises once your Quest 3 does arrive on your doorstep. Now, when opening the box, besides the headset, you will first see two Meta Quest Plus controllers, but also a glasses spacer, a charging USB-C cable with power adapter, and your standard start and warranty guide. But what you definitely don't want to miss is that just like with the original Quest 3 launch that included the Asgard's Wrath 2 game, now both the Quest 3S and Quest 3 will include the highly anticipated Batman Arkham Shadows game when you order it online, as well as 3 months worth of Quest Plus subscription, so that you can get a bunch of free games to start off with. But to make it even better, I also left a link in the description for both the Quest 3 as well as the Quest 3S that besides these games also give you $30 of free store credit that you can spend however you want. So make sure to not miss out on that. And that gets us to the final conclusion. The Quest 3S is the new headset in Meta's long-running family that now took the place of the original Quest 2 and high-end Quest Pro, leaving only the 3S and Quest 3 in their lineup. So with its great price tag at just $300, it somehow manages to pack in quite a punch when we look at the features that are included. This goes from the insane processor to the color mixed reality mode and the inclusion of the Quest Plus controllers. So if you are upgrading from a Quest 2, or if you want to get your first VR headset but you don't want to directly break the bank, then the Quest 3S might be a great option for you, especially with them giving the Batman VR game as well as 3 months worth of Quest Plus with your order for free. And don't forget the extra $30 store credit that you can get with the official link I left below. But for some people, the original Quest 3 might be the superior choice. So if you want to see a direct comparison in more detail, then click on the video that you see on screen right now to make sure you don't miss out. And of course, stay awesome.